All right, I want to talk about the Craighill company. This is a small design company that looks to do just over $1 million a year in revenue. As far as I can tell, they don't have any external support. They're bootstrapped, all in-house. Certainly no influencer or celebrity playbook that they're chasing that it seems like all the startups are chasing these days. No paid distribution other than organic content, which we'll get into in a second. And they've got over 100 million views and growing. So who is Craighill? Quick context, because most people have never really heard of them. And in fact, I never even heard of them up until a couple weeks ago, until I found them, or rather they found me on Instagram. But they make everyday objects, key rings, card cases, wine openers. This category is so unremarkable that most brands don't even touch it. And yet they have a point of view, and that's their whole positioning, which is amazing. They really find flaws in everyday objects, and then they show through Instagram and organic media that we'll talk about in a second, they show how they've improved them and how they've fixed that problem. And that philosophy isn't even just a design process, it's their entire brand in a sentence. And it shows up in everything they make and everything they say. They are consistent. So as I was doing my research, I came upon this LinkedIn post from the founder, which really kind of solidified everything for me. And I'm trying to summarize as best I can, but he laid it out so wonderfully in a post. And so the story goes, about 2 years ago, they made a simple bet. They were going to take organic video seriously. They were going to make content they were proud of. They were going to distribute it for free, let the community come to them. And it did not work, at least at first. The formats didn't go anywhere. The ideas were super complicated or maybe even like undercooked. The progress was slow and it wasn't always visible. And this is where a lot of brands will give up, or they'll pivot, or they'll chase, or they'll do both. They will continue to pour time and effort and money into things that are just not working. These guys, Craighill, kept going. That patience is in and of itself a brand decision. So I want to share the post real quick and show the line that really stopped me in my tracks. You know, they were talking about progress was incremental, it wasn't always visible, it was frustrating, but they kept at it. And what ultimately changed wasn't the platform, wasn't where they were posting their content, it was them, it was the company itself. They found a voice that felt natural. Now, I don't know if these are the brand tenets or the voice tenets, but certainly I would counsel them to document them and make them so. They say that they're going to be clear, slightly dry, unembarrassed. And once the work sounded like them, it started to resonate with everyone else. Once they found out who they were, then the people started to show up. They weren't chasing, they weren't pivoting, they weren't reinventing themselves. They found a way to describe their voice and their tone and scale it so it's consistent and intentional time and time again. And that's when people started to show up. That's really the lesson. It's not about the platform. It's not about the format. It's not about which trend to diagnose and reverse engineer. The brands that break through don't find a better channel. They find a clearer version of themselves. And then they show up like that consistently, unapologetically. 100 million views didn't come from chasing and pivoting. It came from knowing who they were and how they sound. So I feel like a voice is only effective when it's genuinely yours. So another thing that the post goes on to talk about, which I found pretty interesting, is the video team is the product team. And the people explaining the design process on camera are the same people navigating it in real time. They're the ones that are inventing these things, so they know how to talk about it in and out. They're the ones obsessing over the details before the camera ever turns on. And I want to show a video real quick that just kind of highlights how they break it down. What they do a good job of is they take, you know, an everyday object like a key ring, and they talked about, here's 3 issues we have with the everyday key ring. One, it's a nail breaker. If we've ever tried to put a key on that ring, it just destroys our nails. The other one was directionless. So you got to remember the order that you put them in. They're kind of stuck there. And the other one was just anonymous. They're just very boring, either brass or silver. No real identity. And so that they take this video and they break it down about what those issues were and how they've improved it. So from nail breaker to nail saver, directionless to directional, anonymous to personalized, right? Just very simple. Their entire profile is all about this, taking everyday objects and how they've improved it so they're consistent. Now, it doesn't look all the same, but you can see a little bit like these bold colors in the background. There is a continuity here. There is an intent here that is going to scale over time. I feel like that is the authenticity built into the operating model. You can't manufacture it. You can't outsource it. You can't just hand this to somebody else to do it the way that they're doing it. When your voice comes from genuine conviction about what you make and why it matters, the audience feels that. That feeling is what converts. It's not about the production value. If you saw some of these videos, I mean, the founder has got his sunglasses on his head. We've got kind of the ideation gator boards in the background. This is probably not done in a studio, well lit, any of those things. It's all about the product and all about the observation that they've had. It's not about reach. They're doing organic social. They made a bet 2 years ago and it's finally paying off. This is really about trust. Finding out who you are, sticking with it, that creates authenticity over time. And at the end of the day, a product that's improved and really, really well done. That's trust. And trust is earned over time. And I think these guys are proving that out. So Craighill, again, as far as I know, doing just probably north of $1 million a year. Certainly well over 100 million views. The math only works when you understand what drove it. It's not about finding a better platform. It was about finding a voice that was authentic to them. They were patient enough to iterate and honest enough to sound like themselves and disciplined enough to stay in their lane until the world caught up. So that is brand, and that is the whole game.